All right, welcome into Los Angeles, California, and Reiter's Block. We'll get you back to Masters coverage in just a moment, but we've got Raja Bell to break down some NBA playoffs. We're going to talk some baseball, and then send it back to everything you need to know about what's going on at Augusta starting right now. All right, we've got it's early, but we're getting to a sample size in baseball, 12, 13 games per team, that makes it feel like we can get some kind of a sense of which teams are legit and which aren't. And there are 4 surprises, 2 that are pretty good for their fans, 2 that aren't, that we want to dive into. We'll start with the Mariners. They're off to the best start they've had in franchise history. They're 13-2, and as you can see here, they lead every majors in every single offensive category. Those bats have been hot from day one. In fact, they've hit a home run in a franchise record 15 straight games. As you can see, they lead with 36 home runs in the majors in that category, as well as average, slugging, OPS, home runs, run differential at plus 42. They have been awesome, and it feels like less of a fluke than, say, the 2-0 start when they got a week's jump start with those games in Japan. This Mariners team is really good. They're legit, and you can just tell, watching Scott Service, their skipper, talk, that the whole team, and certainly their manager, is feeling the good vibes.
Literally everybody in the bullpen, up and down the lineup, everybody's contributing, and it really is it's a great feeling, man. Guys are really, confidence is building. It's at a high, and we're riding the Vogie train. What can we say?
I'm not raining on the Mariners' parade. They're a legit team this year, and if they're a wild card presence, all the more power to them. But I'm also not selling on the Astros this early. They've played fine. They've been really good pitching-wise. They have the 8th best ERA. Houston in the majors. Their offense has been middling so far this season. It is early. They were a dynamic offense last year. They will be the rest of the year. So I'm not really ready yet to co-sign the Mariners are going to dominate that division of the American League yet. But there's no doubt that what's going on in Seattle is real. It feels legit. And those of you, I didn't, that have and drafted some of those guys on your fantasy teams, good for you. Tampa Bay Rays are really interesting and fascinating. This is a group that's also off to a really, really good start, a really hot start, 10-3, and they have the best pitching staff for the most part in baseball. They've been incredible pitching-wise. If you look at what they've done, especially coming off that sweep on Wednesday, they've now won 4 straight series. They're first in earned run average. They're first in whip in the majors. They're 4th in home runs allowed. And a lot of it has been Tyler Glasnow. And you can see Glasnow's stats right here. He has been an absolute machine, an absolute stud. He's 3-0. His ERA is basically 0.53. He's been awesome as part of that Chris Archer trade. And he talked recently just about why he feels like he's locked in and playing this kind of baseball.
I think it's just been a big focus for me this season. Just really all mentality and coming out no matter the situation, just trying to lock in. I'm sure you guys can all tell the team's really vibing, and we're all excited to come to the ballpark every day, and it's just a good feeling to come together as a team and just go out and have fun.
And let me say this too in defense of Tampa Bay, and you can see it there. The sample size for these guys is bigger than just this season. Go back to August 7th of last season when the Rays were 500. Since that mark, they finished 34-16. Now the 5 teams to make the 2018 playoffs over that stretch, not nearly as good. Red Sox 29-20, Astros 31-17, Indians 29-22, Yankees 31-20, A's 30-19. This is a Tampa Bay team, pitching-wise and just the confidence of this group that's been playing at a high level all the way back to early August of last year. This is not a one-off. It's not a misnomer. It's not a statistical error. This is real. Now, their division is tough. We'll get to a team in a second. But this is a legit team. And if you've got pitching in the majors, you can be really, really good. Don't sleep on the sample size. All right, let's go to some of the disappointments. And we'll start with the Red Sox. And I don't want to sell on these guys. They're 4-9. But it really has been a struggle. And Alex Cora, at least coming off a win, didn't seem super upbeat, but at least had something positive he could talk about.
Obviously, we want to fix it sooner rather than later, but, we still have to play good baseball, for that to happen. And although, they scored 5, there were a lot of positives out there. We played good defense. We ran the bases well. We pitch okay. You know, we only have one bad inning, so that's a positive for me.
And the reason that Cora is not elated is the main problem for this team remains a problem even last night in the win. Their pitching has been atrocious. Their ERA is flirting with 9. As you know, that's a run per inning. Opponents have hit 18 home runs. This is for starters. They're batting .330 against their starters. Those are league worst, as you would expect. And 0 wins at 0-8. In fact, last night's game epitomized what's been the problem with the Red Sox. Nathan Eovaldi threw 5 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs. It took Mitch Moreland really to save the day. And Moreland's been that guy for a big part of the year. I find this fascinating. In all 4 of Boston's wins, Moreland's had a big hit. On March 29th, he was 1 for 1 in a pinch hit 3-run home run. On April 3rd, he had a 2-run double in the 6th to tie the game. On April 7th, had a huge home run that also tied the game. And on April 11th, he hit last night 2 for 5, 2 hits, a home run in the 7th to tie it at 5. And one last thought on the Red Sox, because I want to tell you they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. The Yankees and some of their injuries certainly give them a little bit of breathing room. But Chris Sale's velocity, Sale's been awful so far this season, and guys can get off to bad starts. Great pitchers sometimes get rocked. It happens. I know there's a championship hangover thing that's out there, but the concern about with Sale, fantasy owners as well, daily fantasy guys and Red Sox fans, his velocity is way down, and it's really problematic and really disconcerting. Last year, average fastball right around 96 miles per hour, according to Fangraphs. This year, all the way down to below 92 miles per hour. If there's something going on there, if there's something with his arm, if he's just lost some of that juice, then some of those moments where he just blows by guys, even though when he's got the ball over the middle of the plate, those are going to turn to kind of the outings we've seen. I'm cautiously optimistic the Red Sox can turn it around, but Chris Sale has got to be Chris Sale. And finally, my Chicago Cubs, who have played better of late, early game today, last night, they've been looking better. I got mixed feelings here. On the one hand, the Cubbies' offense has been incredible. Top 5 in baseball this year, just in terms of runs scored. Chris Bryant's been hot. Rizzo's been hot. Javi Baez has looked really good. That lineup is loaded. It's the pitching staff, like with the Red Sox, that's been disastrous. Team ERA of 5.86, and their bullpen, it's hard to do, has been even worse. An ERA of 6.07, third worst in the National League. Now, Pedro Strop looks good, is starting to get back into form. Brandon Morrow is still out. He should be back. But the Cubs have dug themselves a big hole. John Lester injured on the, I hate saying the IL, but the injured list. This is a Cubs team that can't get off to these kind of starts. I know people say that it's cold, and that's why sometimes they have slow starts. That's for offense. The offense looks really good. They're hitting they're hitting the leather off of the ball, even playing at Wrigley. The pitching is the concern. The Brewers are legit. The Cardinals are legit. I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm accustomed to being nervous. But of all these things that feel like maybe the bad news is coming in the long run, I think it's for the Cubs. Get it figured out. Get that pitching staff figured out. Don't dig yourself too big a hole. Love talking baseball. We're going to get back to golf in a minute here on CBS Sports HQ. You're home for streaming sports, but we got to hit. NBA playoffs are set. Got to get some insight. My colleague, Raja Bell, played in the league for a long time, is going to join me for just a few minutes and give you his perspective on the playoffs. Then we'll get you back to updating what's going on at Augusta in a moment here on CBS Sports HQ. All right, welcome back into the show. We'll catch you up on what's going on at Augusta National in just a minute. But earlier today, had a chance to catch up with Raja Bell, longtime NBA player. Catch him on Cannell and Bell here on CBS Sports HQ. Really interesting conversation, his perspective on some of these playoff matchups. Here it is. All right, Raja, thanks for making time. A lot to get to. I want to start with the MVP race. A lot of people, Charles Barkley told her own Reed Forgrave, it may be the closest in a generation. If you had a vote, who would get yours?
Yeah, I'd probably go with Giannis, and that's not taking anything away from what James Harden's done. I know he's been fantastic, and I would have no beef with anyone who cast their vote for James Harden. Giannis came out of the gates kind of consistently. I felt like Houston kind of stumbled out just a little bit. The fact that Milwaukee's got the best record in the league this year, I just feel that the whole body of work for me is more deserving for Giannis to get my vote.
So they've got probably the MVP. They've got the best defense statistically in the NBA. They've got a top 5 offense. Mike Budenholzer is a great coach, former coach of the year, but they haven't been here before, not with these kind of expectations. Raja, where do you see Milwaukee going? What do you think their ceiling is over the next maybe even couple months?
Yeah, see, I think, it depends on what day you ask me. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon's health and when they get him back will play a factor in that. I do think they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I think Toronto, if they see Toronto in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a team that, with the emergence of Pascal Siakam and some of those other guys, would probably beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think Milwaukee's right there knocking on the door. I wouldn't be surprised if they got out. There's something about Philly with the additions late in the season, obviously the uncertainty with Joel Embiid's health. I'm not really trusting that right now. While they might have the best, talent compilation of all the squads, I still think that there's something there with the chemistry. So I think Milwaukee gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, and ultimately I think they get beat in a tough series by Toronto.
One of these teams that's really interesting for a lot of reasons is the Boston Celtics, 1 game away from the finals last year. At least by that standard in the regular season, they've underachieved. Now they've lost Marcus Smart. Is the Marcus Smart injury, is it wildly significant? Is it sort of significant? How much do you think that impacts what Boston does going forward in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think obviously, he's their grit and kind of glue guy. So when just purely on the surface, you would think that they would lose a lot in that equation. But they've also been dealing with this complicated kind of chemistry experiment in terms of finding guys minutes and having them comfortable enough with enough leash to go out there and try to get comfortable offensively. And so I think if you subtract one player from the equation, you might see better offensive numbers and maybe even defensive numbers for guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier. So, it depends on how Boston handles it. I think that they'll lose something, obviously, from a grit and grind defensive perspective, but it might help them on the offensive end having one less mouth to feed.
You played for a long time, and you're the perfect guy to address this. I got asked this on the radio yesterday. If someone asked you on the list of things, if you made a list of what's important to win an NBA championship, how high up would team chemistry, guys liking each other, actually be?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It would be probably health. Health is health. Luck, playing your best basketball at the right time. I would say it's in the 3 or 4 spot in terms of team chemistry, because when you start to compare yourself to a peer, to someone who's got the equal amount of talent that you have, and you both are playing really good basketball for whatever type of lineups you roll out there, I do think that chemistry and knowing a guy inside and out, Steph Curry's relationship with Klay Thompson and knowing where he wants the ball, I think those things do come into play, and they're just little things that might give you an edge against another team. So obviously health is a huge concern. Timing and playing your best basketball is another huge factor in winning a championship. There's some luck involved, but team chemistry is high on that list.
Obviously, they're both basketball, but March Madness and what can happen in that tournament vastly different than a best of 7 game series with professional basketball players. Upsets not the norm. When you look at some of these series, do you see any upsets that you believe that you buy in the first round could actually happen over the course of a 7-game series?
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out to me would probably be OKC against Portland out there in the Western Conference. Portland's had its struggles in the postseason. I think Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are awesome players. I don't know that team is built for postseason success. And then I think kind of the opposite's true for OKC. They're big, they're long. They've got now another guy in Paul George and Russell Westbrook's ability and now willingness to get off the ball and let him, close games. I think they are a dangerous Western Conference playoff team. So if one had to stick out to me, it would probably be that 3-6 matchup.
There's Denver Spurs is fascinating. Just obviously popping the Spurs. 22 years in a row they've been in the postseason. Denver feels like this team on the come. I know they finished as the 2 seed in the West, but they are pretty young. Do you think the Spurs can at least push that to 6 or 7, or do you think Denver rolls?
No, I do. I think I was asked before I came on air when we were doing a show a while ago, and I think that one actually goes 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7, and if it went 7, I'd be really, really scared if I was Denver. You can never discount Pop and the experiences that he's had, what he's going to do to you schematically when he gets a chance to really, break down what you like to do both offensively and defensively. And then you've got guys like DeMar DeRozan that are out there. These guys are really good players. They're going to push Denver. Denver hasn't proved it in the playoffs yet. And Bill, like I know, you need a guy in the playoffs. And while Denver's a great story, and I'm not taking anything away from them, I want to know what they're going to do when push comes to shove in a playoff game. Your offense isn't working. You need a bucket. Whose ball is it? Can he get it done under that situation? So I do think it'll be a test for Denver. I ultimately see them winning in 6, but I think they'll get pushed.
All right, last question for you. It's a series that I find really interesting. Utah against the Rockets. A lot of people think the Rockets can make a really, really deep run. Some people think they can win the whole thing, that they can get past the Warriors. Utah kind of underachieved. They're great defensively this year. They're second. They don't defend the three particularly well, middle of the pack in the NBA, and obviously the Rockets take a ridiculous number of three-point shots. Close series, not a close series. What do you expect from that matchup?
Yeah, this one's tough. I thought that Utah would be a tough draw for a lot of teams in the Western Conference just because of the way they kind of grind you out defensively. They got a lot of long, rangy, versatile defenders out there. I think that Houston will ultimately get to them. I think it could go 6. I'd probably stay in the 5 range, but I think Houston ultimately will be too much for them. They're going to continue to shoot the ball, make or miss. They are going to get them up, and the law of averages usually, works itself out, and I think they'll make enough to beat Utah.
Raja Bell, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, always, man. Good to be with you.
Remember to catch out Raja on Cannell and Bell every weekday here on your home for streaming sports. And right now, because we got you covered, we know what fans want, we're going to get you back to what is going on at the Masters. Let me just throw a little editorialized aside. Go Tiger Woods. We'll see you Monday on Writer's Block. Thanks for hanging out. Here's your latest on the Masters.